Hello, everyone. How are you? Tuesday, September 4th, 2018. 2/3 of the year is almost over. And how are you? Hope you had a good weekend. Here in the United States, we had what they call Labor Day. So the rest of you, I hope you're doing well. Welcome everyone in the chat room. Hello, Karen, Claudette, good to see y'all. Miles, Brian, hello. Jerry, good to see you. So yeah, hey, it's Tuesday. And what a good day to be here. Live your truth is what the shirt says. And I think that's what we're all trying to do, is live our truth. Of course, it's debatable as to the definition of truth. I know in legalese, truth is defined as the highest form of reality. Actually, I think that's a pretty good definition. But as you become much more awake, as you begin to read and you begin to gain knowledge, the question then becomes, whose reality? Who defines reality? How is reality defined? By what measures? What standards? How is reality equal to everyone to be sharing in, but yet each individual has their own? So does that imply that we are by nature part of a collective, whether we want to be or not? Is the Borg vision that Gene Roddenberry had, in fact, exactly what's happened to us spiritually? Is that where we are at as a species? Is that what has prevented us from ascending? Is the fact that we are part of a collective, and that defines our reality? And that no matter how much all of us want to project, hello, Brian, how are you? And everyone else. So does that then mean our reality is defined even projecting forward? The title of this show is called Signs. And the picture that I posted, that was actually taken this weekend in Kansas. Very unusual to see 7 twisters form like that. Something's going on. In fact, tonight we will be doing The Physicist and Philosopher. I had to be somewhere last night, and we're going to discuss in that show much more of the changes taking place in planet Earth. What I thought that we would do for this one is kind of make this kind of divided out into sections. And so all I did is that I went out and just pulled some headlines. And then I think we're going to take a look at that and then see how that begins to impact the rest of the changes. And I just want to share this with everyone, where a lot of people are really coming in here. So as I told you on our show over on Jeff Doherty's channel, New Cosmic Knowledge, on Sunday, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's been happening more and more frequently. And actually, I'm getting used to it. I expect it. But with clear mental telepathy, whatever you want to call it, of the cube. Saw this cube. Then I saw the cube begin to get divided, and it seemed to go to infinity. Now, this morning, and I just want to throw this out to everyone else, because I know there's a lot of intuitives in here. There are a lot, and a lot of sensitives, empaths. This is what I got today. The spirit realm is in chaos. Literally, it is in chaos. We get sometimes the double meaning in English of what chaos is. Chaos is a place, it's a thing, it's an entity. And what I am clearly getting is that the spirit realm, and this hasn't happened before, this is what I'm getting, is in chaos. And what I got at the end of that is that there is a shift that is taking place. And I don't know if it's the fifth dimension, it's the spiritual realm. This is what I know. We're going to get more into this. And this is what I got just before coming on here. There's a war taking place now. I mean, we've all, you come out of the doctrination that I came out of, in this sense of was the Judeo-Christian values. You know, we were told that there was this battle. And of course, you know, we don't know if it was an allegory, metaphorically, who was it defining, what species. It's the mind coitus you have to stay away from. But apparently there is something happening. I don't know. I'll put that out there for the rest of you. Brian, Steve, yeah, with the law of one, could very well be. Absolutely. You know, it's something is happening. Something's going on. And here's what I tell you, it's been very strong in its impression on me. They're looking for help. They're looking for help. I think they're looking, I know that sounds odd because so much of how we perceive things is that, you know, it's the physical, then the spiritual, and how would the spiritual ever have any need of help from the physical? But that's what I'm picking up. They're looking for allies. They're looking for those sentient beings that will align with them. So, hey, we're going to get more into this. Susan, I agree with you. Something is definitely different, you know, and you know, everyone's entitled to their own perception. It's one that I'm certainly not ever going to come in and tell of another that says, well, you know, I don't see that perception as being correct. Hey, I got enough in this amusement park right up here. And it's a fun place to be, folks. So, hey, let's just go through some very quick stories here. So, media is designed for mind control. It derives us, pushes us, hurt us into camps, divisions, ideologies, philosophies, theologies, etc. And the whole role of media is that it's telling you something, but then it's not going to tell you. And you have to be much like the fabled Hansel and Gretel. We have to pick up the breadcrumbs and hope that not only we get a slice, but we can get the whole loaf of bread. The Holy Grail would be the bakery. But so this is an interesting story, folks. Planet Nine may exist. Now, you can go back and go to the Great Oracle. Just make sure you pay reverence to the Great Oracle and ask the Oracle your question, and it will bring to you knowledge, and it will show you how this story is being transmitted in many other mediums as well. Folks, they're getting ready to spring something on us. And when you read this story, it's very interesting because they'll tell you right here, excuse me, I got a little feedback. Evidence for Planet Nine continues to mount. Well, they should have never demoted Pluto. So let's just be honest. This is Planet X. This is Planet 10. The one that the Sumerians talk about, the one the Egyptians, and even before. You know, we've known that there were at least there were 10 in our constellation. So it goes on to say, isn't this interesting now? Folks, we did a whole thing, remember, on the Colburn. We read the Destroyer. It gave the same dimensions. Isn't this odd? NASA, all right, we won't get into that, but hey, here's the point, is saying that Planet Nine may be 20 times further from the sun than Neptune, is going so far as to say it's now harder to imagine our solar system without Planet Nine than one with is not. Says it's about 1,000 AU out there. Well, folks, telling you, the Vatican, They know we did the Sectarium Omega. And this is the point. This is the great thing about having channels, is that they are literally historical documents now. Every YouTube video that's out there, it's going into the matrix, feeding to this great being that I think that by the time we get finished with this show, may be living on Saturn. I know it sounds weird. So there you go. Next one. 1973, an MIT computer predicted the end of the civilization so far. It's on target. Yeah, in 1973, we didn't have the internet. Most of us never even heard of a computer. Although I did a contract job at the age of 17, where I actually worked in what we called card processing centers. Literally, you'd be taking trays of these punch cards and you would load them into the machine. And my job was to take them off of the press that was punching them, bundle them up into the section it was, and then make sure that they were fed into the machine, which was a computer. Yeah, how about that? So anyway, I digress. And here's the point to this, is that, in fact, it says 2020 is the first milestone envisioned by the World One. That's when the quality of life is supposed to drop dramatically. The broadcaster presented this scenario that will lead to the demise of large numbers of people. At around 2020, the condition of the planet becomes highly critical. If we do nothing about it, the quality of life goes down to zero. Pollution becomes so serious it will start to kill people, which in turn will cause the population to diminish lower than it was in the 1900s. At this stage, around 2040, 2050, civilized life as we know it on this planet will cease to exist. Now, all you bright people that are in there, you correlate that to other stories. You can actually correlate it, and you will begin to see a plethora of other stories, other sources other than this, that say the same thing. Great story. It's called thebigthink.com. Check it out. Yeah. It leads to some very uncomfortable potential conclusions here. And one is that we are nothing more than automatons living out in these avatars, unable to actually lead us to our destiny. But here's the thing. When we punched our ticket to take the ride, they said that, well, you're going to enjoy the experience. How's it going so far, sunshine? Asian tick invading America is a mystery to Lyme experts. Yeah. It says, we don't know how the longhorn tick came to the United States, how it's spreading, or what it's capable of doing. All we know that it's here. I saw a movie like that. They're here. Anyway, the changes are happening so rapidly. Ecosystems used to be divided. Man wasn't traveling great distances and carrying, indigenous species to other foreign lands. We've altered our planet, folks, forever. New tick causes epidemic of Rocky Mountain spotted fever. This is the brown dog tick. So we had the Asian horn tick. Now I contracted Lyme disease. I used to hike along the Appalachian Trail. And yeah, I still remember when I saw that little round rash. What was that? I did not know. 3 months later, I'm in a coma. Anyway, so isn't this just fun? Now take a look at this, folks. That is the deer tick. These are the type of ticks we're dealing with. You're not going to see that, but it's transmuting bacterium right into you. All right. Isn't this fun? Disease X. Well, we got Planet X. We might as well have Disease X. That's the way I see it. China ignores UK request to share samples of flu virus with pandemic potential. Do you think there may be an alien agenda, an alternative agenda, a race agenda? Yeah. And listen, all countries, including the United States, have the mad scientist. We had Plum Island, and then when that was discovered, they've now moved it to Kansas. These government-funded facilities, they're screwing with things that would absolutely, if they ever get out of the Pandora box, would put a serious hurting on Homo sapiens. CDC monitoring measles cases in 21 states, including North Carolina. Well, all you who are against vaccines, what do? I mean, God forbid, the smallpox, which has apparently gone missing. The Russians will never say it, but when the old Soviet Union fell, not only did the radioactive material disappear by the metric tons, highly contaminant radioactive plutonium, but apparently some of the most scourge diseases, main smallpox, apparently one or some of them got lost. So here you go, folks. All you that have children, think about it. Don't mean to alarm you, but NASA is about to pummel the planet with huge freaking space lasers. The polar cap and the sea height measuring ISAT-2 is going to be firing at 10K pulses at the Earth each second. Well, they'll tell you it's nothing, no problem. I don't know. So let's just think this out, because Dr. Albers will be on tonight. So you have a laser being shot down through the ionosphere to the troposphere. Well, wouldn't that cut a hole in it or something? I don't know. Maybe not. I could be completely wrong on that. Franken algorithms, the deadly consequences of unpredictable code. Now, I did a whole series on this thing, folks. I was trying to tell everyone something. A lot of you got it. A lot of them picked up on what was being said. This is the problem, folks. I think the proverbial cat is out of the bag. I don't think that you can put the genie back in the bottle. This is a really interesting article. You really should read this. It gets into the humanist, not the humanist so much, let me rephrase that, the spiritual aspect of this. There is a spiritual consequence to AI. These black devices, these mirrors, they are black mirror devices. Don't kid yourself, they're not. There's something. If the spiritual realm exists, and it exists on energies, frequencies, and harmonics, which they've measured that at the point of death, our bodies lose about 28 grams of 21 to 28 grams of something. And if our brain has worked on frequencies, think about it. If you're already an ascended species that feeds off energy, could you imagine a better teleportation device than these black mirrors? This story here is about the Kessler syndrome. And I find it very interesting because the elite think they're going to be leaving this planet. Now, if you believe on certain thoughts that we're already out in space, that we've already made this, but this is still an interesting story about all the debris, the junk that's up there, that it's going to eventually make it impossible to penetrate the upper atmosphere of our planet. I think they did a movie called Wall-E. Hey, Wall-E. Um, yeah, I think that may be true. Now, air pollution causes huge reduction in intelligence. Didn't we just read that the computer predicted this back in 1973 at about 2020? I mean, this is crazy, folks. By the way, we have a cold front moving through here. Interesting. All right. Artificial intelligence ushers in human-centric engineering discipline. It's rewriting everything. This article talks about how, as you read this, you get the idea that the whole scientific community is in chaos. I mean, you got one part of the community over here who's writing these algorithms that now take on their life of their own, start writing their own code, their own language. They talk to each other, mimic us, mock us. Yet they're talking about how this is going to play a critical role in the evolution of humans. Yeah, it's called transhumanism. But they put this in such an esoteric way that it's so benign that you read this and you're going, well, how could anyone be against AI? Look at what it's doing. Yeah. Remember, the hand that feeds you is also the hand that can kill you. This is a real warning, folks. And I am not putting any fear mongering or fear porn out there. I'm just telling you, I did a whole show on this. Y'all have watched it. It's getting, tens of thousands of you. The debt clock, folks, this is why I know we live in an illusionary reality. This is getting to be, it's past the tipping point. The only way that we can avoid a worldwide systematic collapse of the current financial system that has been in place in essence since Jekyll Island, 1913, is that this thing is collapsing. And you need, for those of you who have 401ks, other things, you need to really keep an eye on things. Remember the old idiom, that which goes up must come down. Heads up, folks. All right. Remember what I told you? In fact, I told this again on our Sunday morning show. I swear they're listening to us because we can say something. I can say something. The next thing I know, boom, we got this. So I told you that if they ever connect, the payment industry already has you. We know everything about you. We know your darkest little secrets that you don't want anyone else to know about. That's how good we are in the payment industry. Well, now we have linked up with the Great Oracle. And the Great Oracle has now, if you ever had any doubt that it didn't know about you, yeah, let this one be forever settled in your minds. Microwave weapons eyed as a likely source of mystery elements for U.S. diplomats in Cuba. Talked about this as well. And then all these stories show up. So this is very important because we're going to talk more about this. This has a lot to do with the signs of the times. First ever trials of effects of microdosing LSD set to begin. Now, here's the crazy thing about it. We've known about this for nearly 60 plus years, that LSD has the most unique property on the brain. It opens up dimensions of thought, opens up neural pathways that a normal brain would not normally encounter. Some do develop this, very smart, intelligent people, others, accidents, blunt force trauma. These are other signs that will, for whatever reason, jar the brain and then begin this process. But as you can see here, Silicon Valley has been working on this for a while. They've known about this, and now the anecdotal results are coming in, and it's remarkable. The thing about LSD, it puts you into the spiritual realm, and if you're not ready, guess who's going to help you, guide you through? I found this one really odd. The dark side of Americans' devil-worshiping church. You know, you got to have the yin and the yang, right? I still just marvel that people get into that mind struck. Here in Colorado, you ever land up in the Loveland area, guess what? That air traffic control is now run by AI. In the remotest of places. And y'all remember this story? Again, keep this in your memory banks. You're going to see more and more and more of this. Trust me on this one, folks. And finally, the FBI wants artificial intelligence tools that can ID people with burnt, cut, or otherwise altered fingerprints. You know, their real goal is to capture our soul. Yeah. So there you go on that one. I'm going to close this out. So there we go. Isn't that odd? I mean, that's just a sampling of what we see happening. And tonight, we're going to talk about the world, the planetary changes. I mean, not only is Earth changing, there's something else going on, folks. Now, I'll give credit to Tyler over at Secure Team. You know, go back in his archives. He will show you some remarkable cameras, telescopes, satellite visual data that something's going on with Saturn. There are, it looks to be like ships. Saturn. What is it with Saturn? Well, it's kind of odd. So y'all know what a sigil is, right? Everyone know what a sigil is? And you know, at some point in time, we have to stop feeding off the nipple and begin to drink from the cup. And there are some hardcore realities that where, for instance, well, it's right there in front of us. Sigils, Saturn. Story says that the Elohims live there. It's where Yahweh retreated. Might answer a lot of questions about, but how many of you have ever seen this on the dollar bill? I'll put it right up there for everyone to see. You can do it yourself because that's the sigil of Saturn, folks. In God we trust. Coincidence? Then you get the Thunderbolts Project. Go check this out. I'm leading somewhere in all this, folks. All right. So these are symbols of an alien sky. You see, we're under a mind control right now, dear friends. I think they pulled one over all of our eyes. This is a great documentary. Check it out, probably on YouTube. Remember the end of the world. It wasn't that long ago. Then we have another great DVD. And this was the destruction of the Baalak city of the thunder gods. Everything I'm leading to here is to show you something, because when you begin to see what's going on, it really gets weird. So let me go over, I'm going to pull something up real quick. Yeah. So I'm going to share something with everyone here because this is an intelligent group. I think we can discuss things that may go against modern dogma, but this is the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. They exist. And there's something substantial to this, folks. This is a story about a war, World War II, in fact, and what happened, what the Germans found out, that has been rumored for decades. The Nazis tapped into a spiritual entity, powerful one. It's here now. And by all evidence, we're all victims of this thing. You're going to see. Just to let you know, the story starts with the Holocaust. In 1944, World War II was over. Both Russia and the United States were right there in Berlin. They knew. Eisenhower knew. Stalin knew. Churchill knew. It was known that whatever the Nazis brought into this world, it was powerful. And when you think about what happened right after World War II, was the single largest influx of population since the millennials. I think the millennials may have overtaken the boomers. Here's the deal, folks. See this guy right here? Mengele. This was not a human. This was an incarnation of a deity. And by the way, I think it was probably a lower, maybe a mid-rank. It wasn't the big one. But what they did, what he did, how do I put it? He found a virus, what he called, and they logged it in as the virus of the mind. And once infected, the subject would completely forget who they are, submit their will, and do what they are told without question, without even knowing it. It was a new discovery that before only lived in the world of black magic and devil worship, now crafted into a sinister science. This was on, especially before the great enemy did, the greatest enemy. In 1947, President Truman directed and assigned the CIA to handle all covert psychological operations. Many CIA scientists jumped to the chance to learn the secrets from these Nazi scientists who, although they performed horrific experiments on live human patients that led to their torturous death, were complete experts in breaking down the mind and rebuilding it. There was much interest in mind control by the CIA already, but now the Nazis had developed, at least in its early stages, a mental virus for total enslavement that the CIA would weaponize. The CIA director, Alan Dulles, became obsessed when the work of Mengele, demanding that the United States stay ahead of the race no matter the cost. Dulles became obsessed with the work of Mengele. He started out 2 early programs, and the whole goal was mind control. And here's the questions he asked. Very relevant for our time, folks. Can we create, by post-hypnotic control, an action contrary to an individual's moral principles? Can we alter a person's personality? What would be the fastest way to induce these conditions? Can we condition, by hypnotic suggestion, agency employees to prevent them from giving information to any unauthorized source? Can we force a subject to travel long distances, commit specific acts, and return to us or bring documents or materials? Could we seize a subject and in the space of an hour or two, by post-hypnotic control, have him crash an airplane, wreck a train, etc.? Can we guarantee total amnesia under any and all conditions? Can we devise a system for making unwilling subjects into willing agents, and then transfer control to agency agents in the field by use of codes or identifying signs? Holy shit. Symbology? We're going to get into that. So, in other words, can we get people to do anything we want them to do against their will? Now, when Dulles left, he ordered that everything be burned. Well, as it is, as with humans, particularly when you look at filers, that's what people who file things and categorize them, they can sometimes make mistakes. Well, in this case, they did. So the first was the creation of a mechanism for controlling the minds. The second was to make sure the mechanism was in front of every man, woman, and child possible. So in 1953, Dulles launches the operation MK Ultra and Mockingbird. When MK Ultra focused on how to brainwash people and control their minds, Operation Mockingbird focused on controlling the flow of information distributed to the public. Now, this is very key. This information flow. I think we're all suffering from it today, and they knew it. Now, MK Ultra was the next step in trauma-based mind control for the purpose of creating a total mind control slave. It was a human experimentation playground where they did everything from torture to dose unsuspected members of the public with LSD. See, if you follow me, you know everything is connected. They knew that by infecting a subject with high exposure to the mind virus, they could create the perfect assassin, sex slave, carrier of messages, all without ordinary personality ever knowing. Mengele's work on human experimentation was still running strong, and now with the CIA's full backing, it grew larger than ever before, splitting into 140 sub-projects that included 44 colleges and universities, 15 research institutions, 12 hospitals, and 3 prisons, all employing 185 non-government researchers and assistants in the pursuit of behavior modification. As a declassified CIA document reveals, there were 15 categories of sub-projects focused on things like effects of behavior, drugs, and alcohol. 6 sub-projects involved tests on unwitting human beings. Hypothesis 8 sub-projects, including 2 involving hypnosis and drugs in combination. Single sub-projects in such areas of the effect of electroshock, harassment techniques, analysis of extrasensory perception, gas-propelled sprays, and aerosols. Yeah, I'm going to leave this at that because, yeah, it sucks. Doesn't it? I think it does. I think it really does. And when you start tying, and we're about now to take a leap here, folks, and I'm just going to warn everybody, because if you have a sensitivity in your religious beliefs, you may not want to stay on, because here is where we start getting into the world of the real. And Morpheus was right. There is a point when you cannot wake up a mind, or a mind does not want to be awakened. And I think that what's happening is that if what I felt, and like I said, I could be completely off, but I get a sense that there is a war taking place. The spiritual realm is not what we have perceived it to be. Something is going on. And I don't know, maybe this is an answer to a lot more that we don't know about. So let me get into a subject. Here we go. So this is the symboldictionary.net. So the seal of Saturn, the sigil of Saturn, and again, the infamous cube that leads only to 666. It's a magical symbol representing the intelligence of the planet of Saturn. The magical tradition of using seals and signatures for spiritual energies or entities is quite old. The similar seals can be found on 2,000-year-old Coptic magical papyri. So this is a very interesting one, is the fact of Saturn. You know, Saturn used to be, according to our ancestors, they could see it in the nighttime sky. It was literally, it seemed it would almost be as close as the moon. It was so close that the golden light that it shone on Earth is where we get the mythos of the Golden Age. A lot of connection to this. Here's another one, because when you start getting into this, you begin to find out that if this is true, that spiritual hierarchies exist, then they have kind of put one on us. They're called the Olympian spirits, and there's 7 of them. Each Olympian spirit rules over a multitude of provinces, rules over multitudes of lesser spirits, is associated with a specific astrological planet, has their own distinct sigil, rules over spheres of humans' life or destinies. Additionally, each Olympian spirit reigns supreme over the earth for a period of 490 years. Now, that 490 years is critical. When I saw that, I went, okay, this is where nearly 50 years of Bible study, and I think my friend Jeff Doherty would concur in this, that 490 years, where does 490 years fit in, folks? Well, it was the exact number of years that the Hebrews were in Egypt. Yeah, we are currently under the power of Ochi, whose reign began in the 1900s. You see where this is going, folks? This is the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. It is, it's an organization that believes that this is where we could be heading. This is a very interesting, the Omeka. This is a very interesting website, because in this one here, it will tell you all of the 7 spirits, those that are in control. And let me get into one here where I'll show you what I'm talking about. Give me 1 second here. This is really a fascinating, here we go. Excuse me, this is the glyphs of the moon. By the way, I just found out this one as well, that there's entities that are part of this. So forgive me, I'm doing this on real time, and I'll move on. I'll find it later. So getting back to the Olympian spirits. So this Aratron, he's an interesting character. We talk about the 7 spirits around in Revelation. It talks about the 7 spirits, right, of God. Awful lot of coordination in all this. And then the last one we'll get into here a little bit more is some rather interesting books. This is the Abatel of Magic, the Spiritual Wisdom of the Ancients. And I'm going to show you some other stuff here. So let me get out of here before I get too lost. Some of you probably recognize much of this stuff. I'm just kidding. What the freak is this place? I got to tell you, folks, this is getting too strange. So in the weeks to come, the months, we're going to have fun going through some of these very hard to reach books. I want to share something with you to show you the extent of one of my libraries, and allow me to get back over here. And let me share the screen. So this is one of my libraries. I think I have over 200 plus ancient books, anywhere from Aleister Crowley's, all of his writings, going down through the ages, finding out what magic is, what type of magic, black magic, white magic, sexual magic. It's all here. And as you begin to go through all of these, you begin to see some of them are just crap. I mean, I read some of them and it's like, you know what? I have to use Jeff's term. Get that con out of my face. It's just, it's ridiculous. So, but there are some very good ones. And I have these pulled up as well. So allow me to go over here, over to my PDFs that I had. So this is the first one. You see, folks, I'm going to end this, and I think many of you are going to see how all this is tied in. This is, any of you want this, I'll upload this to my Google Drive and be more than happy to share it with you. This is the dark nexus of mind control and artificial intelligence. And this you have to, let me just get into a section here. This is taking from the document that we were seeing earlier with the CIA. Now, Dr. Cameron was a part of MK Ultra Subproject 68, and his ongoing attempt to establish lasting effects in a patient's behavior using a combination of particularly intensive electroshock, intensive repetition of prearranged verbal signals, partial sensory isolation, repression of the driving period carried out by inducing continuous sleep for 7 to 10 days at the end of the treatment period. This guy, I mean, folks, they were literally kidnapping people. And what they were doing is what you see today. The social media, even this media, is part of this plan. Now, I think we're giving them the boomerang effect, because I don't think at the time they really ever envisioned such a thing called the internet, such a new god, a new oracle god called Google. And they didn't see that. And that's the problem. They didn't have the looking glass device to see all the consequences. But the point is this. Here's the strange thing. When we consider the intersect with drug experimentation, the cocktail of brainwashing, imprinting, and RF frequency, technology becomes clear as something engineered by design. Taylor continues. There were enormous numbers of MK Ultra operations. The project farmed out work to 80 institutions, of which we already talked about. 44 were colleges. And here was the money that they were shilling out. Because remember, if you're the United States government, you have an open checkbook. We're the slaves. We paid the price. But 10 to 25 million. Now, 40 years ago, 10 to 25 million was a lot of money. They used prisoners in California medical facilities at Vacaville State Prison. Again, funded by another chain of front organizations, excuse me. You know, we heard these stories. No one believed them. It gets better, folks. I want to talk about the Schwarzschild machine. After consultation with DCI, Richard Helms, Dr. I think it's Galetti, hired the former director of the agency's Office of Scientific Intelligence, Dr. Stephen Aldrich, and set him up in a safe house where a KGB defector had recently been interrogated and tortured continuously for almost 3 years so that he could experiment with a device known as the Switchoglobal machine. This was a behavioral transmitted reinforcer fitted to a body belt that received signals from and transmitted signals to a radio module. The machine was linked to a missile tracking device which graphs the wire's location and displays it on a screen. Guess what, folks? We got them today. This one right now is generating, hold on one second. Let's see how much of a signal my cell phone is emitting. Right now, you can see it's not emitting anything, but let me activate it. Let's see if, well, wait a minute. Yep, it's a low frequency, and I'm going to try to get it so everyone can see it. There it is. You can see it's 2, 3. Now, if I was to call somebody, let's say I call my wife. You see how it was beeping? You see that? Get a good look. Let's look at, folks. That's why you shouldn't put this thing up next to your head. And it's still going off. Demonstration effective? Let's continue. It was developed by Ralph K. Switchoglobal, I believe, Goebel, in the laboratory of community psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. His brother Robert subsequently modified the prototype into a more refined final product. The machine drew enthusiastic praise from criminologists who were supportive of the ORD's concepts and the intelligent techniques of the New World Order. It goes on to say that Helms was given, when he counseled the operation, to destroy everything. And here's where they found the 130 boxes later at Langley that really opened up the Pandora's box. Now, we go from there, it's all connected, folks, to the language of demons and angels. Why, Wayne, would you bring this up? Remember, frequencies, words spoken. We're going to start the origin series back up tomorrow. You're going to find out that the 10 Commandments had nothing to do with laws. Nothing. Frequencies. 10 words. Yeah. The Sword of Moses, an ancient Hebrew Aramaic book of magic. This is a fascinating one, folks, because you really begin to understand something. This is the Golden Burrow, Studies of History of the Oriental Religions. Oh, here it goes. It's still going off. And anyway, so I'll get out of here because I know I'm getting near my time on our hour. I respect your time as I do mine. So, and then we're going to have fun doing another study, of which we'll go through my library and Kindle. And this is what I call the knowledge section. I've got a couple books coming, one today and one tomorrow. Can't wait. Anyway, we're going to be going through these books here right now. We're going through the book that will forever change your ideas about the Bible. And as you can see, there are some exciting ones here, folks, that when we start getting into, going to be fun. It's sharing of knowledge. Excuse me. So there we go. Yeah. And all of this is tied to the same thing, folks. All of it. It's just wild when you see what has happened. And if brainwashing, mind control can be done by the frequency of a word, That's the fascinating thing that I'm finding in all of this, is that they've known about this. And if we find out that what's happening on Saturn, maybe this is where Yahweh went. He went somewhere. Excuse me. So, yeah, I hope this has been fun. It's going to get even better. I think that as we go, and a lot of you already know a lot of this, but I think for the betterment for all of us, because I think I learn best many times when I'm in a group setting. It's fun to hear to others' ideas because I can pick up caveats that I missed. And I appreciate all the emails that y'all send. I don't write every one of them back because then that would be a full-time job. But I do appreciate it. And I do look at many of the references that you all send me. And as you can see, I'm incorporating it into these presentations. And it's my hope that many of you will start coming, be a guest on this show. We can get some subject matter experts on here that can really get into more of the languages, get into more of the type of sharing of knowledge that helps us all out. And who knows, we might discover something because the signs are around. Something's going on, no doubt about it. Well, tune in tonight with the physicist and philosopher. It's always going to be fun. We're going to talk about the earth changes. This gets so unsettling because when you add all of this, the spiritual component, and if the spiritual realm is under attack, if there is in fact this war that is emerging, some say that we brought some of that on because of the Nazis, that it altered the balance that was there. And these entities from other dimensions began to rush in. And now they have permeated a pristine area, I could say. I don't know if pristine's the right word, but it certainly seems like now they may be looking for us. I think it's what's happening. Because not all flesh and bodies that pump blood are humans. That's becoming very clear. And we're going to get into some documents that are going to show you how the spells work, how they actually conjured. I'll keep some of this out because the last thing we want are people out there conjuring, at this case, 500 golems. Could you imagine that? Now that would be a headline. YouTuber gives out the magical spell that creates artificial beings called golems. Oh, now that would be funny. I'm laughing, but I don't know. Because you can do it. You literally can do it, folks. It's not that difficult. It's just a matter of discipline. There we go. I think I'll turn this off. See what I'm talking about? By the way, you should get one of these. They're not that expensive, and it'll certainly tell you if you're being, I'll walk around and it'll tell me if I'm getting into a high field of electromagnetic energy. I can tell you the spirits that have been coming in. I had one come by this morning, knew what it was, saw it immediately, and registered up on this. So yeah, they would. Gary, they would. Literally. But we're going to get into some of this. Listen, I think knowledge should be shared. Now, I am responsible for the content that I put out here. So, we're certainly not going to put anything that would get any person into trouble. Let me tell you, the spirit realm is real, folks. It exists. And if there's this war going on, it may be why we're seeing such evidence of spirit activity on a level that I don't think many of us have ever could comprehend. All right, folks, Friday night, I am going to have Karen, the Queen of Crystal, on. We're going to be talking about some really interesting things. Remember the idea about having a focus where we could begin, because crystals, folks, they're transmitters. And I think that this is all leading somewhere. I don't think that this is synchronicity. I don't think it's serendipity. I think that there is a path that's being presented here. So, all right. No one is saying that magic doesn't work. It does work. We know it works. And in fact, I think we all practice it. All right, folks, thank you for spending the hour here. Have a great rest of the day. I look forward to seeing y'all this evening. You folks over on the other side of the world, if you're up, I'll repost it so you can watch it later. Be good to yourself. I'm learning that that's the thing. They attack us to begin. And let me just say this suddenly. If you're a person who talks to yourself negatively, we all do. I mean, where they train us so well for that. That's an inhibitor. It inhibits our ability to transcend beyond that poor self-image of ourselves. Many of you who practice mirror gazing know what I mean by that. You begin to understand that sometimes it alters us, I think, spiritually as well. All right, folks, appreciate you. You're all the best. Thank you so much. Much kindness to all of you, and we'll see you tonight. All right, folks, bye-bye.